And I'm joined to pay tribute to Irrfan Khan by two magnificent actors also of our generation. Shabana Azmi and Naseeruddin Shah join me. I also hope to be joined by Nimrat Kaur, co-star of Irrfan Khan in the film Lunchbox. Thank you both very much for joining me. Let me start with you, Shabana. What strikes out for you about Irrfan Khan's acting? I know you acted in Jaspa, one film with him, but what strikes out and makes him to you an actor with a difference?
Well, the fact that, like he himself has said, he didn't fit into what was known as the typical Hindi film hero. He had to work his way up. I remember many years ago, he worked with Pankaj Kapoor and me in a film called Ek Doctor Ki Maut. And then several decades later, he worked with me in Jaspa. And here was an actor and a man who had developed a high degree of confidence in being his own voice and not being anybody else's shadow. He had been successful in creating a niche for himself because he had the ability, like Balraj Sahni, to speak the most inane lives and yet inhabit the character in a completely credible way. Few people have had the kind of trajectory that he has had, moving from parallel cinema into mainstream cinema and then into Hollywood. The thing is that he is gone too soon because he was in his element right now. You know, the success had made him more confident. His aura was increasing and everything was going perfect for him. I met him a year ago in London. He was with Shutapai, his wife, and his son, and he was getting better. And he was very optimistic because, like he says, if life gives you lemons, it's up to you to make lemonade. And it was his optimism that made me believe that he is going to, come out of this. It's deeply, deeply, deeply sad because he had so much going for him. There was so much work that he could have given us. I mean, look at the ease with which he does a Lunchbox, Singh Tomar, Namesake, Jaspa. In Jaspa, he doesn't look like he's out of place because he is able to give that character the Hindi film swagger and yet not make it awkward.
You know, the same question to you, Naseeruddin Shah. What makes him stand out? You know, you are seen also one of the great actors of our time. What separates, in a way, the actor from the star? What made Irrfan Khan someone who was able to actually make the transition, possibly, from actor to star?
Well, for one thing, when I first saw him perform, and he had a very long struggle playing very tiny parts before he gained any kind of recognition. But and I don't remember seeing him in any of those television things that he did. But he did a small part in a film I did many years ago called Private Detective, made by Rajat Kapoor, and he had a very small part in it. But he just looked completely real. And then I saw him in The Warrior, and I really found myself saying to myself that I wish I'd been this good when I was this age. And I'm really not being modest, but he just burst out of the screen.
Well, what was special? What was special? You know, Shabana Azmi mentioned Balraj Sahni. It was an interesting sort of comparison, you know, but Balraj Sahni was very much an actor for a particular generation in a way. Do Biga Zameen, pictures of that generation. I'm looking at this generation, which was sort of the multiplex generation, to which he was very easily able to make the transition. What stood out, according to you, Naseeruddin Shah?
He had the smell of the earth. He looked authentic. And he did not at any point look as if he was straining. His technique is absolutely invisible. That is, I think, the greatest thing about Irrfan. You never felt that he's trying too hard. And too many actors have been guilty of that, including myself. But whenever I watched Irrfan, I always felt that there's a tremendous ease about him. And that ease doesn't come easily, you know. It's there are actors who don't believe in rehearsal and so on. I don't think Irrfan was one of them because I didn't work with him too much. But I'm sure he was very well. He was absolutely ready when he arrived to work. He was absolutely ready, and that readiness takes a lot of effort.
You know,
and that ease
yes.
is a result of that readiness.
You know, Shabana Azmi, you worked with him. Was it, in a sense, that raw energy that he brought on screen? You know, someone who came without the pretensions or the baggage of, you know, wanting to be this big star. He was what he, you know, what you saw is what you got. Someone who was able to bring that raw energy of his life into cinema.
You know, what struck me about him is that when I saw him in Ek Doctor Ki Maut, I mean, I didn't know who he was, but he struck me as somebody who was a good actor. And at that time, I had felt that he was very influenced by Naseeruddin Shah, and probably it was because of his NSD background. But by the time I worked with him in Jazba, he was already a star, and he was comfortable in his own skin. And yet, he had this strange quality that Naseer talks about, which is authenticity, and yet he has the sort of vanity which is necessary for a mainstream actor. Not in trying to look like somebody else, but keeping it in himself, which was a very special ability. Most of us have had to struggle with that when we are working in mainstream cinema. अगर आप इजाजत दे तो मैं सिर्फ एक शेर अपने अब्बा का सुनाना चाहती हूँ इनके लिए, इरफान खान के लिए। रहने को सदा दहर में आता नहीं कोई, रहने को सदा दहर में आता नहीं कोई, तुम जैसे गए ऐसे भी जाता नहीं कोई।
अरे वाह, अरे वाह। You know, as you said, I think one of the reasons why he struck such a chord today is also because he died so early. And even though he died so early, in a way, he's had such a range of movies that he was able to do in the last 10 years in particular. At times, in a way, Naseeruddin Shah, this is the generation which is able to make the leap from parallel cinema to mainstream cinema, the multiplex world doing that. Was there, do you believe in a way, therefore, that this is, that Irrfan Khan is a prototype of what is possible in cinema today?
Yes, absolutely. And the fact that the so-called arty movies don't have such difficulty finding an audience as they did in the 70s is because the filmmakers have gotten better. It's as simple as that. The films have become better. And the parts that were written for Irrfan were written with him in mind and written by people who knew his strengths. And I think he owes a lot to those directors like Dhulia and Vishal.
You know, there's of course Maqbool, there's Pan Singh Tomar, there's also Lunchbox. Sure, go ahead.
And Hasil. Yeah, and Hasil. So Irrfan was very fortunate, I'd say, in the same sense that I was, that I appeared at a time when actors like me were needed. And Irrfan appeared at a time when the young filmmakers were really ready to recognize potential in an actor and to realize the value of an actor. Because I think Irrfan raised many mediocre movies. He elevated them by his very presence. And the vanity that Shabana spoke about, that's absolutely right. He had the right amount of it. Which I think is necessary, and I'd call it self-regard rather than vanity.
It's a very interesting word that an actor needs an element of vanity but doesn't have to showcase it, you know, doesn't have to wear it on his sleeve. I'm joined by Nimrat Kaur, who worked with Irrfan in Lunchbox, a film that really made waves. What was it like, Nimrat, working with Irrfan Khan?
Rajiv sir, actually, I didn't really have the great pleasure to work with him in a scene. You know, we just met a few times on set. But I really got to know him on our travels when we were promoting the film and when we premiered the film in Cannes. So my interactions with him were on a very personal level and, you know, not really opposite him as an actor. Unfortunately, that's going to be a regret for the rest of my life.
What was he like? What was he like as a person? Tell us, what was he like as a person off screen?
Well, he had a tremendous sense of humor, and I think a great understanding of life, and he was an incredible observer of human beings and human behavior. I remember him just he would just come up with just the most unexpected comments about a situation, you know, whether it was a press conference or anything that, you know, we would be engaged in or involved with. The one incident that that comes to mind is when the film had premiered in Cannes. That night we were all really overwhelmed, and it was my first experience of that sort and at that level and that magnitude, really. And I was really overwhelmed, and I asked him, I said, I can't handle all of this, and I don't know what to make of any of this. And I remember him just laughing it off and saying that, just hold on to the good times, because these are the rewards we get for all the struggles we have.
Sure.
So
he was in that
these
sense.
don't come very often, and these are few and far between.
So there was that down-to-earth quality that he had. Shabana Azmi, the fact is, as Naseeruddin Shah also said, in a way, fine directors helped Irrfan Khan build, in a sense, this legacy that he now leaves of performances from Maqbool to Pan Singh Tomar to Lunchbox to Hindi medium. Do you believe that he was a director's actor? Is that the way we should see him, or was he much more spontaneous?
I really can't say that, because I didn't work with him enough to know what his technique was. But like Nasir said, I found him prepared. And when an actor is prepared, then you can have the ease to just flow into the scene. He gave that impression. Like Nasir says, you don't feel that he was trying too hard. So that was a particular quality he had. And also in real life, he was very self-deprecatory. He used to make funny remarks about himself. And I think that kept a reality check. And I think he also did it deliberately, because he didn't want his fame and his success to go to his head, having known what a difficult struggle it was for him to reach where he reached on his own terms in the kind of movies he wanted to do. I mean, that surely is success.
In a way, Naseeruddin Shah, is there a performance that stands out? Should actors be remembered by a particular performance, or should they just be remembered by the body of work that they do over a period of time?
Actors are remembered through the films they do. And luckily Irrfan did several which are likely to be remembered. But I don't know if he will be. Of course, his work is there. And it's pointless going into superlatives about his acting abilities. Everybody knows that. It should be stating the obvious. So his performances are there for everybody to see forever. And he'll be assessed on the quality of those. But what, for me, is more important for the lesson that I learned from Irrfan, because ever since Farooq and Om and other friends, Tom and all, went, thoughts of mortality have been occurring to me a great deal. And the way Irrfan handled this situation is what was truly inspiring. It kind of shows you what kind of a human being he was, if you're looking for a definition in a nutshell. A person who was not exactly welcoming death, was totally prepared for it and talked about it objectively. He referred to it as the unwelcome guest in his body. And I had the good fortune of speaking to him a few times when he was in London on the phone. And I met him some months ago at his house. And the fortitude with which he was approaching what he knew was inevitable. That is the real lesson that one learned. There wasn't a trace of self-pity. There wasn't once that he said that he, or even must have let himself wonder, why did this happen to me, kind of thing. I don't know how many people will ever know of this, because he was a very private person, and so is his family, and maybe people won't come to know of it, but it is good that they do. His work needs no testimonial from me. He was a truly great actor, and there was so much more he could have done.
Sure, the fortitude, and it's a great life in a way. It's the story of our times. I saw a tweet from Baman Irani, the actor, who said someone who would struggle to get a ticket to watch Jurassic Park was eventually doing a Hollywood film where he was acting as the chief of Jurassic Park. So that sort of rags to riches story is a story of our times, isn't it, Shabana Azmi?
It's truly an inspiring story.
There was no godfather or someone in the industry who took him where he is. He's a self-made man, and I think maybe that's where the confidence, the fortitude came, Shabana Azmi, from.
Yeah, you see, and he talks about it. He says that he wanted to go a certain way, and then he got certain signals from life, which is important for an actor to catch. And then he steered his way back to exactly where he wanted it to be. That is his success. And carrying on from what Nasir said about the fortitude with which he handled his illness, I really do want to give credit to Shutapa, who was not only his wife, but his partner and his fellow traveler in every way. And it was really because I saw the two of them so close to each other when I met them in London that I felt that it was because he had the comfort and warmth of his wife and his son with him that he had felt that he can carry through this. So really credit needs to be given to her as well.
You know, it's been a pleasure talking to both of you because, you know, you are actors who we grew up watching, and you set the standards for an entire generation. For the 21st century generation, it's Irrfan who's taken that baton forward. And as I said, Hindi cinema will miss him, as will those who watch the world of cinema. Nimrat, can you hear me? I wanted one final word from you. You want to give us a final memory that you want to leave us with today?
I think I'll just take forward the one thought that he's left me with, that one should never be shy of celebrating the good times, because they don't really come that often and they're few and far between. And we'll always remember him for his sense of humor. I'll always remember him for that.
Well, we'll all remember him for his acting and for what he's given cinema. And as you said, for the fortitude with which he fought cancer. Thank you all very much for joining us. Yes, you want to make one point?
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to make one. I'll with Shabana's permission, recite the next couplet of the Noha that she recited, written by Kaifi Sahab, for another person altogether. एक बार तो खुद मौत भी घबरा गई होगी, एक बार तो खुद मौत भी घबरा गई होगी, यूं मौत को सीने से लगाता नहीं कोई. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you very much for having for coming here and sharing your thoughts. It's been wonderful listening to you, and I'm sure we will celebrate the life and times of Irrfan Khan. Thank you all very much for joining me here on the Top of the News.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.